Okay, hello everyone. My name is Przemysław Beigert, and I will talk about Vue.js. As you may know, is a single-page app front-end framework, relatively young one, actually pretty popular, and recently received huge upgrade, the version 3.0. We keep component like this in separate .vue file. There is a template section that we keep HTML that will be rendered by our component. There is no JSX, so we're using just the double brackets. Directives like VIF or V4 can used be for iterational or conditional rendering. Next, we have script section. In that, we export object that will be representation of our component. We have name, just for debug purposes. There is child components. Unfortunately, just import it is not enough. We have to also declare it in that place. Props, same thing as in React. Data is internal state of the component. Computed fields, that's pretty interesting. This is dynamically calculated field that can be used as a static one. And methods last thing that functions that will be called during the life of the component. Also pretty important thing, for all of these entities we have access from this dot, whatever it is, and simple limitation like that on the screen is forcing component to re-render himself. Another interesting thing about Vue is ecosystem. All of the listed stuff are developed by Vue organization in the GitHub, and all of these are integrated with each other by CLI. So we have modern framework, pretty easy to use with constant environment. It sounds very good. Maybe I should learn it. Let's compare the Vue.js to other frameworks to show some differences and make the better picture. In React, just to remind, if we want to pass data from parent to child, we can use props. From the opposite direction, we can pass the function and call it in the child, and parent will get data from the child. If we want to validate that, we can use TypeScript, for example, add proper interface and get validation during compilation time. Or if we stay with JavaScript, we can add prop types and do validation a little bit later in the runtime. In Vue.js, props looks like this. We have a name and description. Description, there is type, required, default, and validation function. And we apply it like HTML attribute with proper prefix. For opposite direction, we can use build $emit method. It takes two things. First is the name of the event, and second is payload. This 32 magically became this $event on the top of the file. So first big difference is we have to use validation in runtime. Of course, we can add types of our project, but TypeScript does not understand the syntax and declaration, so these things will not be linked in the TypeScript. Also, second difference is in case of primitive types like string and numbers, it's pretty easy. Type string, type number, and we have it. In case of more complex object or collections, only thing to do is type object or array. That's it. There is no way to declare proper exact shape of the props. Validation of the output is done only by checking the presence by the linter since version 3.0. In Angular, we use class attributes with the proper declarator prefix. So input looks like this. We pass it similar as in Vue. We can pass the value to component or pass the stream of the value and render it with the async pipe. For opposite direction, we can use event emitter. It's also generically typed. So that thing became type safe. Also, the templates of Angular are understood by TypeScript. So we have strong validation here. Styles. React still has no tool for create encapsulated styles, so we have to use like stuff like styled component when we can declare CSS that will be linked to this node. There will be no leak outside of it. Also, we are very easy able to get access to the state of the component, so we can easily declare conditional styles. In Vue, we don't have to use another library. There is a separate section in template styles. We can scope it very easily by just attribute and use CSS, SCSS or less language. Conditional styling is a little bit harder, but it's not impossible. Also, we can use something like vdeep to style all of the component descenders. Fortunately, there is no way to style ancestors from one component. In Angular, pretty much the same story as in Vue. Only difference is that encapsulation is turned on by default. Forms, in pure React, we have to use something like that and synchronize HTML with the JavaScript object manually. However, usually we add some external library like hook form to first get more declarative API and don't care about synchronize HTML with the JavaScript by hand. Like this. In Vue.js, it's kind of in the middle way. There is vModel directive when you can pass data, and the vModel will mutate name whenever input is changed. So what will be right on the left side will be rendered on the right side. It's nice, it's simple. However, for more complex form, it's a little bit annoying because we have to do many stuff manually instead of declarative API like hook form. In Angular, to create form, we have to first add reactive import module to our app module. Then we have access to form builder by dependency injection. Then we can create a form group from this form builder and to link this form group to the form. It's much longer than React one. However, Angular developer used to write more code. And also that's its pretty good part of the Angular, so I will not criticize it. Updates. In React, to get simple watcher, we can use something like that. Use effect, callback, and what you want to watch in second argument. In Vue, there is a separate section, as always. We can watch data, we can watch props, or we can watch even computed fields, and we have access to new and old value. Also, with syntax like this, we are able to track the parts of the changed object. And in Angular, to create a watcher, we have to first add proper interface to our class, then add ngOnChange method. Without interface, it doesn't work. In this method, we have access to the dictionary of old change things. However, this things is not strongly typed because instance of the component is not related to the simple changes. So common practice is split input into private field, getter, and setter. Ugly, unreadable, but type safe. Okay, that should be about differences. This looks pretty much the same. Yes, it does. However, the context is pretty much different. In React, it's hard to even say about watcher. We don't need to know what was the previous props or previous state. We just focus on declare how to HTML should look like based on the current state, context, or store. Vue and Angular, usually these components are more stateful. However, in the Angular, we have two paradigms. We can do imperative programming or reactive one. So if we want to refactor some complex component, we can pass it as the input streams of the data. Thanks for Eric's operator, we can create the new streams based on that input ones and handle only that new streams. In Vue.js, we have to use imperative approach. Also, chances for watcher are higher in Vue because, first of all, mutation is a first-class citizen, so it can be used in any place of component. vModel, by default, it's mutating data, and also computed fields are very comfortable to use. However, there's bigger chances that we create computed fields and the watcher instead of one function to handle that. And actually, that's my biggest problem with the Vue. You need to be a little bit more focused on the code quality. There is no declarative API to prevent some spaghetti code inside, like in Angular or in React. State manager is a great thing to handle complexity. For example, in Redux, I think still most popular is Redux. Just to remind, there is actions. Actions are object with type and payload. Then we have reducers. It's immutable function that returns new state based on existing one and the payload. Or with the immer, we can produce this immutable function from the mutable one. In Vue, we use similar tool, but a little bit different. It's named Vuex. Vuex store is made of modules, and modules are made for getters, mutations, and actions. Actions is a function, that's the first difference. Actions can take payload, dispatch another action, and commit mutation. And the first difference is one action can commit many mutations. It's not possible in Redux when the reducer and action are linked together with the action type. Also, we can return something from the action in Vuex and catch it in the component. Also impossible in Redux when we just dispatch things. Mutations, very similar to Redux with immer. However, we use real mutation. In case of mutating some nested object, we have to use this viewSet syntax. Also, there is no immer under the hood, so this is real mutable function. Because of that, there is no time travel debugger in the Vuex DevTools. We connect store to the component like this, map getter and map actions, name of the module and name of the entity that we want to bind. And this thing magically appears in this statement. Also, another interesting thing, we can strictly connect whole state to our component, or we can commit mutation just from the component, also impossible in Redux. It's for the Redux fans, it can look like messy tool. However, for the other hand, Redux is very formal tool, so maybe a little bit more of flexibility will be nice to add it. Also, if you feel that your view store is being messy, the easiest way to do is just apply Redux rules on it. So don't return anything from mutation, don't commit, don't return anything from action. Sorry, don't commit anything from the component. And we have something similar to Redux. In Angular, we use ng-rx. It's wrapper Angular for the Redux. It's most of the same things. The only difference is we have effects as a new entity. Effects are integrated with Angular dependency injection. And effects declare dispatch action like this. So from the stream of all dispatch action, we apply some operation to get the new stream of actions to dispatch. With the rx operator, of course. It can sound pretty powerful, however, for most of the cases, it's just an overkill. We connect it to the component by, of course, observable, as always, and we test it like that with the rx marbles, also pretty controversial thing. It's pretty hard tool, it's high level, high entry point, it's hard to understand sometimes and not that easy to debug. However, it's consistent with the rest of the framework, so again, hard to criticize it. Unit testing, that's actually a pretty good part in the view. We use builded view utils to create something like that. First, we have to shallow mode a component to mount it in the JS DOM, and all of the children will be replaced into stubs. Then we can easily apply some assertion, do some query, and trigger events. Also, it's very intuitive and debuggable, this code. And one type of test that I really like, it's render component and check if the children of this component was rendered with the proper props. Great for more logical component that is only rendering the visual ones. In React, with the enzyme, for example, we can achieve something similar. However, shallow mode is not that exciting in the React because components are usually more stateless. And in Angular, first we have to create testbed and configure with all of the import module from our module, then manually compile it, then create a fixture from the testbed, then from this fixture manually detect changes to run some proper lifecycle hooks, and then we have access to compiled component. Long, unintuitive, not readable, and by default it's run on Karma and Jasmine. If you have argued someday with the Angular developer, ask him about unit testing of the component. You should win that one. Okay, so in overview, React can look like a little bit better tool than Vue. Technically that's true. However, it's also the oversimplification. Because Vue has some pros and cons. Positive sides of the Vue are for sure low entry point, intuitive API, and consistent ecosystem. You cannot miss that. It's the things that you see immediately when you start working with Vue with a couple of hours. From the other hand, negative sides of the Vue are mostly visible in the more complex and advanced things to do. So that means there exists a specific group of the projects that will notice only positive sides of the Vue and no negatives. And that's amazing. So for every small app, Vue will be great. Also, if you have bigger app but more focus on presentation than on logic, Vue can be a great choice for you. Stuff like proof of concept or demo will be amazing for a Vue because it's an application that are made to die very soon. So we can use mutations, watcher, create huge mess and implement it in a very fast way because implementation in Vue is fast. And then just remove it. Also, small team, maybe 2, maybe 3 developers should consider it. It's not a guarantee of the success, but for sure I recommend it to think about Vue. Okay, let's summarize a little bit. Pretend that in one day all of the web framework became actors. So if Vue.js will become actor, here for sure be Catherine Theron. Just remind, she's the amazing role in the Monster. Charlize Theron, sorry. In the Monster in 2003, amazing role, and many medium average role in some blockbuster movies. She's not the bad actress, but okay, maybe good level. It's max what we can expect for her. Similar in Vue. It's great for specific group of projects, and for the rest of them, good. It's max what we can expect. React.js will be Daniel Day-Lewis, great actor, but he needs a lot of time to prepare himself. He's playing once per couple of years. Same thing in React. We can have amazing application if you prepare it enough. We have to choose the library for styling, state manager, some utils for testing, many things to choose for big ecosystem. And it should be good choice for our projects. So yeah, we have a chance for being great tool for our project. However, it takes time. It takes some work to do to get that state of React. And Angular will be Leslie Nielsen, of course. It can work, but only in specific type of movie. Only that. Okay, let's back to the title question. Should I learn Vue.js, or actually when I should learn it, when I should spend my precious time to get this knowledge? Maybe junior developer as a first framework can learn it. I cannot recommend that. Vue.js is nice for working, however, there's many magical things, so that can focus developer on framework, not the basics of the language. I remember times when learning jQuery and then Java was acceptable, however, that times are gone. Maybe senior developer will be the target. Can be, however, I again don't recommend that because in Vue there is nothing new. There is the same patterns done in a little bit different way. So yeah, this developer will know some new framework, however, it will not improve his thinking of the code of art overall. In my opinion, much better choice will be Angular to learn as a senior developer, because Angular do many things in different way. Sometimes dumb one, but please remember that stupid one can learn only from wise one, and wise one can learn from anyone. So maybe Angular developer is the target. And 2 years ago, I will agree with that. However, right now in React, we have hooks. There is Redux Toolkit, much simpler solution than pure Redux. React Query. So we have many tools to create consistent application in the fast way. So we can a little bit increase that investment time to get know of the React, not in Vue. And let's be honest, React defines standards for a web, not the Vue, and especially not Angular. Backend developer, it's our target. They are experienced, they work probably with legacy code, so this self-control should be present at backend developer. Probably they will not create a big application. So yeah, it's great framework for the backend developers, in my opinion. To make long story short, should I learn Vue.js in 2022? Rather not. I think he played already his best card. It is much less unique advantages of React right now that it was a couple of years ago. I think we kind of in the peak, around of the peak of popularity of the Vue. It should not decrease because still it's a good part, this is a good technology. But I will be really surprised if that popularity will increase in next months. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. So there's one question that's not a question. Vue has defined props in Composition API. I don't get it. I'm a
Yes, Composition API is kind of hooked for the Vue. You can define props in that way. However, still templates in the Vue are not compiled by TypeScript.
Okay. And the biggest question, what about Svelte? Did you want to include it? Is there a reason it's not included? Apples to oranges?
I had no time in the presentation. I have no time, for checking that. So no, it's not part of the code. I don't do it in my work time. So yeah, it will not present because of that.
Okay, so that's homework for you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.